In 1951, 8 volunteers agreed to do nothing. No books, no music, no conversation, just a small room, 3 meals a day, and time. Most of them couldn't last 3 days. One man started hallucinating after 48 hours. Another begged to be let out after one. These were healthy adults with nothing physically wrong with them. Doing nothing was destroying their minds. No other animal has this problem. A cow can stand in a field for 6 hours and feel nothing about it. A lizard will sit on the same rock for an entire day. Leave a dog alone in a room with food, water, and warmth, and it will sleep contentedly, without crisis. We do. And the question of why, the real answer, not the obvious one, changes how you see almost everything about the modern world. Boredom is not the absence of stimulation. If it were, sitting in a sensory deprivation tank would be the most boring experience imaginable. But people who do that regularly describe it as one of the most mentally rich experiences of their lives. Floating, thinking, dreaming, awake. Boredom is something more specific. Psychologists define it as the state of wanting to engage in satisfying activity but being unable to find it. It requires two things simultaneously: awareness that time is passing, and the feeling that it's passing without purpose. That second part is the key, because purpose is a human concept. No other animal on Earth is capable of feeling that its time is being wasted. A bear doesn't lie in its cave in February thinking, I should be doing something with my life. A bird sitting on a wire isn't wondering if it's living up to its potential. Only we do this. Only we can look at a moment and feel with genuine distress that it is not enough. The question is, why evolution built us this way? Because it didn't have to. In 2014, psychologists Timothy Wilson and Daniel Gilbert at the University of Virginia ran a deceptively simple experiment. They put participants in a plain room, took away all their belongings, and asked them to sit quietly. For between 6 and 15 minutes, nothing else, just sit. Most people hated it. When researchers asked them afterward to rate the experience, the majority described it as actively unpleasant. Not neutral, unpleasant. Then came the second part of the experiment. The researchers offered participants a button. Press it, and you would receive a mild but genuinely painful electric shock. It was the same shock participants had already tried once before the study began, and had said they would pay money not to experience again. 67% of men pressed it anyway. 25% of women pressed it. Rather than sit alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes, most people chose pain. The researchers published their results in the journal Science. Their conclusion was careful and clinical. People generally prefer to be doing something rather than nothing, even if that something is negative. But here's what the paper didn't fully explain. Why are we like this in the first place? The answer goes back much further than you'd expect. For most of human evolutionary history, boredom as we experience it today simply could not exist. Not because our ancestors were always busy, but because of how they were busy. Hunter-gatherer life was structured around immediate, concrete, survival-level tasks. Find food, make shelter, stay warm, stay alive. The brain's job was to scan constantly for threats and opportunities. It was never idle, because the environment never allowed it to be. But something changed roughly 10,000 years ago. Agriculture? When humans began farming, they created something that had never existed before in the history of our species. Predictability. You planted the crop, you waited, the food would come or it wouldn't, but either way there was nothing to do right now but wait. For the first time, human beings had stretches of time with no immediate survival task attached to them. And the brain, which had spent hundreds of thousands of years wired to always be doing something, didn't know what to do with that. The earliest evidence of art, music, organized religion, written language, and philosophy all explode in the archaeological record right around the same period. Not because humans suddenly became smarter, but because for the first time they had to fill time. And the way they filled it built civilization. Boredom, it turns out, is not a flaw. It's a signal. A very specific signal that says, your current situation is not using you fully. Go find something that does. The psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire has spent years studying boredom and found something that completely inverts the conventional wisdom. In her research, people who were made bored before a creative task consistently outperformed people who weren't. The bored participants generated more ideas, more original ones, more unusual ones. Her explanation is almost uncomfortable in its simplicity. When the brain has nothing external to process, it turns inward. It starts making connections between things it already knows. It starts imagining things that don't exist yet. The wandering mind is not a broken mind. It's a mind doing something it was specifically built to do. This is why the best ideas so often arrive in the shower, or on a long drive, or in the 15 minutes before sleep. These are the last remaining pockets of modern life where boredom is still structurally possible, where your phone isn't in your hand, and the world isn't feeding you something to react to. And we are systematically eliminating them. The average person now touches their phone 2,617 times a day. The average time before reaching for it when it's not in use is 83 seconds. We have built an entire industry, the most profitable industry in human history, around the single goal of making sure you are never bored for a single moment of your waking life. And it's working. But here's what we don't talk about. Every time we kill a moment of boredom with a scroll, we are interrupting a process, a very old process, one that built language and religion and art and science, one that the brain defaults to the second the world stops shouting at it. Boredom is not the enemy of productivity. It is the raw material of everything humans have ever made that mattered. The cow in the field doesn't get bored. The lizard on the rock doesn't get bored. And in the 4 billion year history of life on this planet, neither of them has ever built anything. We got bored, and we built everything else. The next time you reach for your phone because you can't stand the quiet, remember that. The discomfort you're trying to escape is the same discomfort that made us human, and we're paying a company to take it away.